BoxingVoice.com live here with Manuel Robles. Manny, man, talk to us. Saudi Arabia, New York, LA. How is the traveling? How are you taking the travel?
Man, I don't even know where I'm at. What time is it right now, bro? I'm lost.
4 o'clock.
I'm like, man, and we gotta head back to the airport in a couple hours.
Wow.
We gotta fly over to London, so we're flying overnight and be in London first thing in the morning.
You think it was strategic to make London the last stop? This way AJ stays there. Now you gotta
of course it was.
come back.
Come on, of course it was.
Yeah.
You know, why do we have to fly to London and fly all the way back to LA when it's convenient for them and the press conference in London or the press tour in London at home? You know, this is still their show. Mm-hmm. You know. Why aren't we flying to California for a press conference?
Exactly.
Why aren't we flying to Mexico City for a press conference? Nobody's talking about that, and it's unfortunate, yes, and obviously I'm against it. But what am I gonna do? Like I said, it's Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing. It's his promotion, and you know we gotta go where they send us.
And why not argue at least for that LA press conference instead of a New York?
Not correct, and that's what I don't understand either. You know what I mean? Why? I mean, with all due respect, it's a beautiful city. I love coming to New York, but why not LA? We could have started in LA and made our way to Saudi Arabia and then London. But that's not the case.
So
I'm not the boss Eddie is. So
I spoke to the father, Senior Andy here. He's saying you guys are heading for Mexico on the 14th, which is next Saturday. You're going to be there for a month, but you're going back 2 weeks short of the fight. Do you think that's going to be enough time?
Going back to Saudi Arabia, you mean? 2
yes.
weeks? I think it will be. I think you start adapting now, yes, and not when we get to Saudi Arabia, because the fight's at sea level to start with, so it's not high altitude. It's not. We were there. It's hot now, but it's not as hot as people think it might be. Or even December, it's going to be. They assured us that it's going to be a lot cooler. The climate is different. It'll be convenient for both. But you got to remember that if it's hot, Andy's from Mexicali. You know, they call Mexicali the living hell because it's so freaking hot out there. So he's already used to that type of climate. He's already used to that type of weather. And he said it himself. It was funny that walking around the street, man, I could fight in this place. I could get used to this. So it's, it'll be different. And as far as the time change, we start that now. First of all, we got to find out what time we're fighting back in Saudi Arabia.
He says 4 o'clock over here.
4 o'clock in New York.
Yeah.
New York, right?
So I believe that's 12 over there.
It would be 1 o'clock. It would be, if it's
he said 4 o'clock is main event too.
Oh, main event. So if it's 4 o'clock p.m. New York, so 1 o'clock LA, so be probably around 11 p.m. back in Saudi Arabia, which is something that we start working on now. You know what I mean?
Now Mayweather used to do that, train at night because he fights at night. Is that something that you would?
Absolutely. Sleep by day, train by night, something like that. But we're fighting at 1 o'clock. I'm thinking West Coast time, right? LA. If it's 1 o'clock, it's not bad. That's normally the time that we train. 1 o'clock. That's the time that we train back in LA. So nothing changes. But as far as like being able to stay up at night, that might change. Why? Because it's 10 hours later. You know what I mean? So if it's 1 p.m., then if it's 1 p.m. In LA, it'd be 11 p.m. back in Saudi Arabia. Those type of things. You know what I mean? Being able to go to bed later at night and just get up a little later in the morning. So, something like that. You know what I mean?
How excited are you that it's a full training camp this time around?
Very excited. I think time plays in our favor. We were able to do good the first time around, and that only says that we should do better the second time around. That we should have a better camp, right? Because we have the ideal time. We'll be able to find proper sparring, better sparring, and so then I wasn't able to answer some of the questions that you asked me in our first interview as far as who the sparring partners were, because honestly, to be quite honest with you, it wasn't even worth mentioning their names because we didn't have that type of time to find good quality sparring. Not to take anything away from the last guys because they did a great job, but now we have the time to find a proper sparring sparring. We can go to Mexico for our first phase of training and not have the media or friends and family around us. It'll just be myself, Andy, and the team, his father, and then being able to come back to LA to continue the second phase with the sparring, and then obviously by then we'll have a good ideas as to who will be coming into camp. And then the third phase will be obviously flying into Saudi Arabia and maybe spar over there and a couple times just to kind of get the feel for the city and the climate and the conditions, and then obviously get into the fight.
So, when you're thinking of Anthony Joshua, you think this fight will be more difficult because they like to use, and I say they, Matchroom, Eddie, Anthony Joshua, they're using the excuse that they were overlooking Andy. He was thinking about fighting Wilder, not Andy Ruiz. Now that the focus is Andy Ruiz, does the task become harder, or is Andy's style just the kryptonite for Anthony Joshua?
You know what? I doubt that, because they're professionals, and as a professional, you never underestimate your opponent. You never overlook someone. You can't talk about Anthony Joshua. I mean, you can't talk about or Anthony Joshua can't talk about Deontay when he first has to face Andy Ruiz, and so do we. We can't get ahead. We can never get ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, is it an excuse? Maybe it is to say that they overlooked Andy or that they were overconfident. As professionals, you know better than that. You know that you can never underestimate your opponents.
Did it play out the way you envisioned it, the first fight?
Yes and no. Obviously, the way I envisioned the fight, because I actually dreamt about the fight, it was Andy beating him by winning by knockout, but from a one-punch knockout. You know what I mean? And obviously it played out differently, but nonetheless, it played out in our favor. So that's a plus.
Does Andy go down this time?
No, we don't go down. And it's something that the first fight was something that I dreamt about. This time it's just different. This time it's reality. This time now we are the world champions. This time now it's time for us to go out there and defend what's ours. You know what I mean? We're gonna have a proper preparation, a proper camp to come in better shape, mentally, physically, stronger than we did the first time around.
Now, people seem to think that he's lost the hunger because they see him partying, they see the jewelry. Yeah. You're the trainer. Yeah. Can you whip him back into shape?
Absolutely. But it's only normal for a human being to spend time with his family and friends after winning a heavyweight championship of the world. It was one party. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the kid, and then, they talk about him when buying a new house or a mansion or buying a new car or whatever the case may be. Nobody talks about him buying his mom a new car. Nobody talks about him, spending time with this guy is a perfect father. I don't care, we've been traveling to Saudi Arabia, New York. He calls his kids, he FaceTimes his kids. He's a dad, he's a great father. Good. That's what I respect about Andy. He hasn't lost ground. He's a humble individual. He stays humble. He remains. Obviously, you're gonna change, man. You're a world champion. You did make a little bit of money. He's gonna buy a new house. He's gonna drive a new car. But he's taking care of his family. He's taking care of the people around him. So to me, that's very important.
When the rumors first surfaced of Joey DeWelko allegedly concussing or knocking out AJ, did you buy into any of those pre-fight rumors?
Not at all. We're professionals, as I said. We have to remain professional, and we have to prepare. You win your fights in the gym. We never underestimated. We don't underestimate Anthony Joshua. We don't listen to rumors. We don't listen to, the Waco, hurting Joshua and sparring. We don't listen to any of that type of stuff. Our job is to get him ready. My job is to get him ready, and not to be overconfident. And that is the reason why it's so important for us to leave the States. And it could be of any part in the world, but we choose to go to Mexico to get away from the media, to get away from friends and family, and just to keep them focused on boxing, and just to get him right. Not to say that he's not, but get them in fighting mode. You know what I mean? Get them in fight mode and get them get them right mentally, physically, and not to forget what got us here in the first place. You know what I mean?
If the goal is to go to Mexico to isolate, why come back?
Because that's a good question. We were not gonna find sparring in Mexico. And it's not that easy to fly sparring from the States into Mexico.
More expensive?
More expensive, not just that, but it's the same thing that people had we have the question about going to Saudi Arabia. Oh, Saudi Arabia is a dangerous place. Don't go to Saudi Arabia. Oh, it's bad. And then when you're there, you come to realize that it's not as people think. It's not even like that. And then I want to say it's the same thing in Mexico, but it's not, unless you're there, then you would know. Mm-hmm. But obviously, again, as I said, it's a lot easier to come back and get the sparring here, what we need, and so forth and so on. I just want to be able to get them away and get them in fight mode, and obviously get them in better shape to be able to come back and to initiate the sparring phase.
So first phase is strength and conditioning and technical skills, mm-hmm. and then you come back to LA for sparring, and you might fly someone to Saudi Arabia for sparring. Yes,
we will. We will. That's the game plan, is to bring at least 1 or 2 guys to Saudi Arabia and maybe get a couple, 2 to 3 sparring sessions out there. But obviously by then the hard part will be done.
Now I'm a conspiracy theorist, and you should try your best to ensure the win, right? So would you call in a DeWelko or a Ajit Cababel that used to spar with Anthony Joshua? Would you bring those type of guys into your camp, or you don't need to know any intimate secrets of Joshua to win?
Well, we already beat him. You know what I mean? We already beat him. We already fought him. We're not fighting him for the first time. If we were fighting him for the first time, then it would make sense to probably bring someone that's been around his camp, that's sparred him in the past. That's not the case. We already fought Anthony Joshua. So,
All right. Well, I want to thank you obviously for your time, and
video. Feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/theboxingvoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.